Hello everyone, welcome to the new park series. In this episode I will be building an inverted roller coaster. I don't really have quite any plan for this park yet. I really just kind of started with a coaster I've been wanting to do for a while now, which has been an old school 90s B&M inverted roller coaster. And I figured I'd just build the roller coaster first and then kind of just go into building the park and figuring out how the rest of the park fits around this coaster. This has been something I really want to do in my other park series before I lost the park file. So never got around to it, so I figured I may as well just continue on with those plans and figure out how the rest of the park should go from there. So you may notice right now on the screen there's a new GUI or GUI. That is because I modded the game a little bit. So recently, I believe his name was Gizmo. I'll double check the name and throw it up on the screen if I'm wrong. Pretty sure his name is Gizmo. He created a force vector design tool for Planet Coaster. Now, if you're not familiar with force vector design, it's basically something that came from the NoTrackLimits 2 community. And essentially, all it really is basically, instead of designing the track, shaping the elements by hand, and then seeing what forces output out of the track shape you design by hand, it's the other way around. Instead, you set the forces, and then the force vector software, or whatever it is, will then design the track profile based on the forces you want it to be. Now, the Planet Coaster version is a little bit different compared to the No Limits version. So the No Limits version, it's based off of time, where you set the force and the amount of time, and it'll make the track piece let's say you set the 4 Gs for 4 seconds, it'll make a track piece that is 4 Gs for 4 seconds. Well, on the Planet Coaster version here, you set an anchor at the very top of the track at the high point, and then it will calculate the speed based on where that high point was and where the train is now on the track. And it'll just calculate a track piece at, let's say, 4 Gs with where based on the speed of the train is at that point along the track, in a simplified version. I will show more of an overview of the actual mod in the real-time section of this video, but that's kind of the general overview. I don't think I explained it very well, but hopefully you kind of get the gist of it. And this mod also adds a couple other options outside of the force vector builder. It also adds something called the Gizmo builder, which basically all it is just an advanced move on the track piece, and you'll kind of see me using it here as I shape out the 0G roll. It's kind of a little process to learn the mod. I did create one inverted roller coaster before this using the mod to kind of get a feel for the software. I'm not really sure what the learning curve would be if you've never used force vector design ever. Because I have a lot of experience using force vector design in No Limits 2, so you kind of get a feel for how a lot of the tracking and shaping should go when you're just setting in the forces. But I didn't think the Planet Coaster version was very hard to learn at all, so I think this is definitely something that can easily be picked up if you would like to download it yourself, and I'll throw the links in the description. Another thing with this is I want to be able to upload this park to the workshop so other people can download it. So I did do one test where I'm able to, where I removed all the mods and loaded up the park, and I was able to open the park file with no issues. As long as I don't make drastic changes with these mods I added, which is mainly putting the RMC trains on inverted roller coaster track, I think it should be fine. I know in Planet Coaster 1 I used a mod similar to this, and I had no issues uploading to the workshop, and no one had any issues ever opening it, so it should be fine. Definitely let me know in the comments if there's any issues with it. You just can't edit it, so there's a couple spots where there's 1 meter track sections. So with that said, with the mod, like I said, I had a lot of fun. I guess we'll get into more about the actual coaster that I'm building. So right now you see me shaping the Cobra roll. This is one of the hardest parts for me to really lock down. Mainly because I really want to capture that B&M, that old 90s B&M shaping, where almost every transition has like a kind of whip to it. If you really know B&M, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And so I was trying to capture both that whip and then also get that shaping of the Cobra roll just perfect. Because I built this Cobra roll probably 3 or 4 times. In the first couple attempts, I got the whip down, and on the POV it looked pretty good. But then whenever I get out and go into the free look camera, the shaping would be all off. There would be one side would be higher than the other. I eventually went back and forth, and eventually what kind of helped is I searched up a picture of a real Cobra roll on an invert. I found one of Raptor at Cedar Point. I'll put that picture up on the screen right here. So yeah, so I found a picture of that Cobra roll, and I was able to kind of compare how that shaping was done based on that picture, and get that same camera view of my Cobra roll and kind of base it off of that while capturing that whip. So anyways, yeah, that was definitely one of the harder parts to do. And the whole process is you kind of see my flow with using this force vector design tool. I would kind of build it in basically 4 meter, 3 meter long sections, a little bit bigger sections. And then the part that I really wanted to capture that weight, but I didn't want to lose the shaping, because if you smooth everything using just normal smoothing tool with 3 pieces at a time, it'll kind of widen everything out and really over smooth everything, and everything gets drawn out. So what I do is I go in between, bake it out of 4 meter sections, and then go back through, delete every other track piece, like you see right here, and then split it into 2 pieces. And then I would run the smoothing tool over that. And that really ensured that I really keep that shaping I wanted, and nothing gets drawn out throughout a curve or anything like that, especially the transitions, and really get that shaping I was looking for. So the part I'm working on here is after the mid-course brakes, and I basically did something kind of similar to Kumba, where it has the interlocking corkscrews. Just instead of it being a sit-down, it's an inverted coaster. But the way inverted roller coaster corkscrews, or maybe I think they're technically called flat turns in the inverted coaster, whatever you want to call them, the interlocking doesn't really work, where it makes that like really picturesque round interlocking corkscrews. So showing the real time, it doesn't really make a nice looking like picture or anything. They don't really, like, the shaping is just kind of odd for these. So whenever you try and interlock them, they don't really look very round or barrel like how you'd see on like Kumba. But oh well, I give it a try, and I still think I'm happy with how the layout turns out, even if it's not as focal or as nice of a picture point as I was hoping. Then the other part on this layout that I probably should mention at the start of the video, was the 0G roll. Really happy with how that turned out. 0G rolls are actually surprisingly easy, because I mean, all they really are is just an airtime hill with just 180-degree twist in it. The only thing to really note if you're making a 0G roll is you have to kind of speed up the twist as it gets towards a high part. Like a lot of B&M inversions that twist, the slower the train's moving, the faster like the roll rate is through the twist. You have to make sure you kind of capture that, at least for it to seem kind of realistic. But yeah, and outside of vertical loop, super easy. And then the drop, I'm not super happy with the drop. I think it's a little too steep, but I think for the most part, I think it's passable for what I was trying to do. So at the end of the day, every roller coaster has the shaping isn't exactly copy and pasted between layout to layout. There's always slight variations, so I don't think it's the end of the world if my drop is a little steeper than a lot of the 90s inverted coasters. But speaking of 90s inverted coasters, biggest inspiration for this one was certainly Afterburn at Carowinds. That's my favorite inverted roller coaster, followed closely by Montu. I don't know what it is, just something with Afterburn, the pacing really felt faster in Montu. And so I figured I'd base my inverted roller coaster here off of Afterburn. And then a little bit of talent at Dorney Park too, mainly just the size of the coaster. It's around a comparable length, a little bit longer, but not too terribly long. So yeah, I had a lot of fun playing around with this FVD tool, building it. It's definitely something I'm going to probably use for the rest of my coasters. I build and plan a coaster, especially since you can upload it to the workshop still. Like I said, the biggest thing is, like, I've never been great at hand building coasters, whether it's in NoLimits 2 or Planet Coaster 2, especially whenever it's like I'm trying to build like a coaster in the style of B&M, where there's like really niche like shaping things, like especially like the whips. Now they do transitions through curves and their corkscrews, 0G rolls, all that stuff. So hand building it is definitely a lot more of a challenge than using this force vector, where you kind of have a feel for what the forces should be, and it will make that perfectly shaped track piece just based off the forces. So you don't get any wonkiness with like the banking, or, oh, I didn't pull up fast enough, or this isn't a perfect parabola, that sort of thing. So yeah, I had a lot of fun building this. I'm kind of just wrapping up the time lapse right now. I tried adding in an extra helix at the end, similar to Raptor, but the train just didn't have enough speed. And if I'd tried sending it to the forces I want it to be at, which is like 3 to 4 Gs, it made it way too tight. So I ended up deleting all this and just going back and just doing a quick little kind of double up sort of thing to kind of wrap up the rest of the layout. And you see me putting this in right about now. There we go. But I had a lot of fun. This episode is really just me focusing on just the layout and just more of the force vector design software, which is nice because I was able to kind of quickly get this video going, and I did this in a week, which is nice. Next video will definitely be more doing custom supports along with the station building, and probably at least throwing down some paths to kind of lay out the rest of the park, which wherever that park may be. I'm thinking it'll probably be a park similar to Cedar Point. I don't know if I want to go into like a heavily themed theme park just yet. I definitely want to, but also that's a lot of building. I kind of want to focus more on just getting the amusement park side of or do a series on just a normal amusement park first before I go into something heavily themed. But anyways, that's about the end of the time lapse, so I'll see you guys in the real-time section. Hi everyone, welcome to the real-time section. So this is just a quick little overview of the two things I built. So obviously this is a coaster you just saw in the time lapse right here. So really happy with how this one turned out. And then this one over here, this was the first coaster I built with the FVD mod. Definitely, the shaping isn't quite great and isn't quite perfect on it, but it's definitely kind of, I had to build at least one coaster to really kind of get the, kind of learn how to use the tool before I went full speed at the second one. But I think this one honestly didn't turn out too bad. It's not perfect. I'll give you like a little POV of it. You definitely need to start somewhere to kind of learn a mod, or at least to learn the mod a little bit. So I think the drop's definitely a little bit too steep, but the loop and the 0G roll turned out great. It's just kind of that whip I was talking about where you kind of see it speed up a little bit as it goes through the roll. I think this Immelman turned out pretty solid. And then add in a little random B&M section where it's just like meanders around before it goes into 2 corkscrews. So yeah, definitely not perfect. You can definitely see there's a little bit of jitteriness in the track as it goes through some of these turns because I didn't quite smooth it out all the way. And I think definitely these corkscrews are a little too drawn out. I set it to 0 Gs whenever I hit the rolls, but in reality, they actually kind of pull in. They're always under like some form of positive Gs as they go through, which is kind of why they seem so long, especially compared to these corkscrews over here. We can see they're a lot tighter. But either way, I think this is kind of a fun little layout. It definitely kind of taught me the ins and outs of the mod real quick as I went into it. Speaking of the mod, I'll kind of show you a quick example of kind of how my flow worked with as I was building this, especially with the 2 mods. The other one I should mention is I also downloaded a NoTrackLimits mod because for some reason, Planet Coaster, the developers kept like track limits on even after like you disable them in the settings, but like you'll still not be able to like bend things as tight as you'd like, which I think is really stupid. I don't know why they would just completely remove it and let us have full reign over how tight we can make the tracks, but whatever. A simple mod was kind of an easy fix for that. It's dumb there even needs to be an easy fix for that, but whatever. So right now, here's the mod. Right now I have it set to normal mode, but what you have to do in order to get to the force vector mode, you have to basically set an anchor on the track. So this is where it'll take a high point of the train and it'll calculate the speed for the force vector from that point on. And also it does heart lining for you. So for inverted coaster, you usually want 1.1 meters. And then here, I'll show you guys a quick little, I'll show you guys a really quick example of like a 0G roll, which I think is a pretty easy tool to nail. Hopefully I'll be able to get this first try on the full-time view. Already I'm having issues though. All right. All right, so I'll probably take it up to maybe, let's say about 45 degrees, bring it to 1G. I think that should hopefully be pretty solid. And then I'll put it in 0 Gs here. This might be a little tighter than it needs to be, but oh well. Extend it out a little bit. And then I'll put on an angle snap at 30 degrees. It's a really light one first. This is all set to 0. I'm gonna keep this guy at 0 the whole time. I'll do 2 to 90, all the way to 180, and nope, messed it up a little bit. It should be 180 right when it's in the middle. So I'll just shorten this up a little bit, how about? All right, now I went too much. Now it's not quite level yet. Always a little bit of, you have to play around a little bit. Let's try 20 feet to 90. I think this should be pretty good. It's gonna be a little off, but oh well. There we go. That is gonna be symmetric enough, I think. There we go. And I'll just change this back up to, whoop, that's the heart line. It's back up to 3, and I should be able to finish it off. Okay, so now that the general shaping is done, I'll kind of show you like that really quick version of like my flow. Definitely want to turn off the track supports for this one, so it gets kind of ugly looking. And then basically all I do is I go through, pretty much once the roll starts, I'm going to split this into 2 different track pieces. So I delete every other, and then I'm going to switch this to the gizmo mode, and I just drag this guy up, this guy there, and then just like that, split it into 2 pieces, and then just kind of continue it. Now ideally I think for like this tight roll here, you probably want to split it again, especially if you're doing like a 0G roll, and I definitely did in my other coasters, but I think just for the sake of the video, and not dragging this section out too long, I'm gonna just kind of leave it at this. Hopefully, as you see, it's really not, it really doesn't take that much time. It's the only time consuming part of the movie is really trying to lock in like shaping and you don't really know what you're doing. So that's like certainly what made it long for me, especially like the Cobra rolls and the corkscrews took a good bit of time as well. But like I said, if you kind of get into a flow with this stuff, and you can kind of whip out some decently shaped elements pretty quickly. And you'll see with the NoTrackLimits, you can kind of just do whatever with the track, which is pretty nice. So I think that'll be pretty good, at least for this video. And then I'll do simple smooth forward and smooth back. You can see it definitely kind of takes, I probably should have split this one more time, but oh well. And then I'll drop it down to 5 and do one more pass. All right, let's see how this rides. Alright, so yeah, so that's kind of like a little demonstration of how I kind of use this mod, and definitely kind of my style of building, where it's basically build it with bigger pieces and slowly just chunk it up after you do the shaping. You don't smooth anything until after you chunk everything up and kind of retain that general shaping you wanted. I hope that gives you a little overview, and it's the same exact process for the entire coaster. So talking about the coaster though, like I said, here's kind of the overview of it. So pretty standard, like 180-degree drop going into a vertical loop. So I have a real nice shaping on the 0G roll. So I love how easy it is to make 0G rolls with the Force Vector software. And then this is definitely my favorite part is the Cobra roll. I'll line up that picture of Raptor again, kind of show like comparison between the shaping. But I think this turned out really great. So yeah. And then another thing I thought would be kind of cool is you don't really see 45 incline loops on inverted coasters. You see them a lot on like the floorless and the dive coasters. There might be one somewhere on an inverted coaster. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to add like a 45 incline loop similar to like Rougarou, just on an inverted coaster. And here's what I was talking about with the interlocking corkscrews. I was hoping to kind of get that Kumba shape, but it doesn't really look that great. But oh well, I think it's more just a product of just how inverted roller coasters are kind of shaped. But oh well, still happy with how this turned out. So I think for the plans with the rest of the park at this point is probably, I'm gonna figure out a nice place to put this coaster, and then probably just gonna kind of pack out like the start of the park around it. And I think next episode, I'll definitely be focusing on just the scenery around the inverted coaster. And I think the next episode of that, after that, I'll work on connecting it to the rest of the park. So anyways, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope I didn't ramble too long about the whole mods and everything. I'll throw the mods that you need to kind of install it down in the description. It's super easy to install. I'll maybe throw a little README in there as well. It's just dropping files into the right place. And yeah, have a nice day. I'll leave you guys with the POV of this coaster.